Well, let's just face it, whether you're self-trained or you're new, the errors that we make are pretty damn common. So let's start there. Thanks for joining us on the channel. I'm hanging out here with Tim. Tim's up here in Yellow Pine, Idaho. Fantastic town. He owns the Corner Pub. I'm also here with Kyle. Kyle's from Backcountry Adventure Motorsports. He does his own YouTube channel. This is the foundation when you ride. And one of the most common errors for adventure riders that are self-taught or new. What we do with the feet means that this is the connection point. This is where control starts. And we need to be nice and tight to the bike. The most common mistake with our feet is that we flare the feet out. I refer to this as flipper footing because it looks like flippers when you're following somebody down the road and their feet are dangling out there. But this is really quite dangerous, and there's a couple reasons why. One, you don't have good control of the motorcycle. When your feet are pointed out, you're not able to lock in at the ankle, and it ends up pointing your knees in the wrong direction. You're not able to pinch and hold in place. That's one issue. The other is it's dangerous. It's dangerous because if you're riding through the brush, if you're riding through trees, if you're riding past large rocks, it's very easy for your foot to be caught and pulled off of the peg. And if that happens and it twists, if you're lucky, it may just be a sore foot and ankle. If you're unlucky, it can blow your knee or it can give you a spiral fracture to the lower leg. And the same is true if you crash the motorcycle. We like to think that somehow we have control when the bike goes down. That somehow I'm gonna jump off the bike, or if it lays it down, I'm just gonna jump on top and I'll surf the bike down the gravel road. That's just never gonna happen, and I'll pay you money if you can do it for me. What really happens is you're riding along and then you're laying on the ground and you're wondering, what just happened? And when that happens that quick with this foot out, it can capture the ground, it can be pinched between the bike, and again, very serious injuries can occur. We don't want that to happen. The solution is really simple. Pull your foot all the way into the bike. As soon as I pull that foot in and you twist it, then that brings the knee back in where you have a connection point to the bike. It gives you better control. Also, that locks the heel into the motorcycle. And when you lock the heel into the motorcycle, you have better control. As far as your foot position on the peg, there's really two positions you can work with. One is center foot, where you're over the controls and you can manipulate them as needed. The other one is to move back to the balls of your feet. This is going to vary depending on whether you're going at high speed, whether you're in a very technical situation, whether you're standing or sitting. But either one of these positions is correct in any given situation where it's ideal. But that's the idea, is whether you're on the peg, you pull it in. If you slide forward, you're still pulled in. If you're very, very new, one of the ways to train yourself to do this well is to knock knee. You pull your toes and you point both toes in. That forces the knees in against the tank as well. It helps develop muscle memory so you don't get lazy. And I can assure you, even though you know this is the case, when you go riding out on the next gravel road or you get on the trail, you're gonna find yourself out here. It's comfortable. It's what most riders do, even when they know better. Hey Tim, before you jump off the bike, I want to talk about another common thing that I see when I'm out coaching and working with riders. So let me ask you a really quick question. How many fingers do you use on the brake and on the clutch when you're out riding?
Usually I think I use 2 on the brake, and then a lot of times I grab 4 on the clutch. I was trained through the basic trainer riding to use 4 fingers on both the clutch and the brake.
Okay. Well, how come you only use 2 on the brake then?
It's more convenient. I have better control. I'm not sure why I grabbed 4 on the clutch.
Well, you were taught, I suppose.
Yeah.
Kyle, you've done this for a while. So, guys, just to give you some point of view here or perspective, Tim's only been riding for a year. His formal training was the basic rider training that he did in his home state. And every place out here at Yellow Pine, Idaho is dirt in or out. And not just short roads, long roads. So he's got a lot of time now riding dirt, but he's not a formal trained rider in the off-road arena. He's not a dirt rider. He didn't ride dirt as a kid. He hasn't taken any courses, didn't take a course with me, but we'll talk about that one later. So I just want to put that perspective, and you're going to understand why I brought that up here in just a second. Kyle, a lot more experience, has his own channel. He does reviews, he does more riding. Kyle, how many fingers are you using on your clutch and on your brake?
Yeah, I'm generally using 1 on the brake, 2 on the clutch. Just kind of depends on if I'm standing or sitting in terrain. And really the reason I'm just like Tim that I do that is because I was taught, 3 or 4 fingers on the clutch and brake. And I really learned the hard way when I transitioned from street to dirt, especially coming from on an older bike with no cheaters or no ABS in the front. You grab a handful of brake with 4 fingers, you're gonna learn really fast. That is a bad thing to do. So that being said, I was able to figure out on my own without training that 1 to 2 is probably the way to go, and then come to find out later on after watching guys like this that say that's actually the right thing to do.
Let me add to that, and he's absolutely correct. So 1 to 3 fingers is the right answer, and 4 fingers is something many of you may be doing because you were taught, just like Tim. Those instructors may not have understood what your future was going to be, or even why we would recommend less than 4 fingers. If you, how many you use is really depend on your strength, on your timing. Often I'll use 1 finger, and by the end of the day I'm using 3, but I never use more than 3 off-road. And the reason is I need to maintain control of the motorcycle, and that's, you talk about having better control.
Absolutely,
with the braking, because again, if you have 4 fingers, you can over-brake very easily, which you discovered.
Yeah,
you were telling me that didn't always work out so well.
No.
But what happens is when we're off-road, sometimes you'll end up with a tire deflection that is greater than anticipated. The bikes will generally correct themselves. Even if you hit a large rock going down the road, the rake, the trail, the gyroscopic precession, the wheel, all that stuff's gonna snap back to center. If you go into deep sand, it's gonna come back to center. It's not you holding on. We'll just as kind of a reminder there. But what happens is if it hits that rock, if it hits that root, if it gets into the sand and it really pushes off center, it yanks it out of your hand. And when those handlebars yank out of your hand, all of a sudden you don't have any control. You're not touching the throttle, you're not touching the brake, you're not touching the clutch. That last finger, that pinky finger, is a hook. We just go around the handlebars, and that way, if you hit a deflection, it pulls your hand, it'll pull it forward. Because we're not grabbing. We have 3 fingers, 2 fingers resting. The rest are just dangling over the bars, just as hooks, so that if the handlebars get deflected, you still have control. So they're absolutely correct. And 4 fingers is not wrong on the street. You were going to say something, Tim?
Nope.
Yes, you were.
Nope.
So that's really, really common error to run out there, either because you were taught or because you came from a long history of street riding where it wasn't necessarily wrong. If you've been riding street bikes like the old ones that didn't have very good brakes for 4 fingers, but let's face it, modern motorcycles with hydraulic clutches, with the new brakes on them, 2 fingers, even on the street, 2 is generally more than enough, if not sometimes too much.
Yeah.
So off-road, there's no need to have 4 fingers out there. Get the hook out there. Let's fix our grip. Oh, by the way, if you haven't watched, I did a video on just grip and angle of the grip. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't already done that. With that said, I need some water. I'm hot. If you haven't already hit subscribe, make sure you hit subscribe, like, leave a comment down below, and I really do appreciate you watching the channel. I also really appreciate all of those that support me on Patreon to help keep this channel free of sponsorships or built-in advertising. I like it that way, and it helps me chase what you're most interested rather than trying to follow the algorithms or say that other stuff. If you haven't already checked out the channel, I have a lot of videos on skills development, bike setup, some gear reviews and different things that are out there. A lot of that's driven by those on Patreon and the questions they came up, just like this particular video, which was some questions I had just recently. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.